here.
What's up, everybody? It's your favorite overlooked character's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Maketoys Downbeat, which is their take on jazz. And the reason why I say overlooked is because I think most of us have wanted a G1 jazz for some time for your masterpiece shelf, and it's just kind of starting now to happen between all the companies and so forth. So, you know, it just seems like, you know, Takara or another company would have tackled this by now. But I'm glad that Maketoys has. So let's talk about the vehicle. But before we do, let's get into the accessories. So he comes with his, you know, that thing from that episode accessory, which are these two, you know, speakers / weapons. Just purple plastic and the silver paint added for the details in the center, and then these long pegs, which you can utilize both in vehicle mode and robot mode, and we'll show that here. And they slide into the back here using this peg in that port, giving you this look, which works. Had the peg, they go right into that hole there on the back of his shoulders. He comes with these two side pieces, which are just to fill out the hips in robot mode if you want that look. I don't think there's any way to store them in vehicle mode, but if you want to attach it to the side hips in robot mode, it's relatively easy, and we'll do that. These side panels clip onto the side here with these little kind of sculpted details facing outward. Or inward, I guess you could switch them around probably. His signature rifle in a gray plastic, which I think is a bit weird. I personally would have liked this to have been chrome, or at least painted in some way. This doesn't seem on the same caliber as the rest of the toy. But he can hold it. Use it utilizing kind of the standard tab situations, not the normal slot situation that Maketoys usually uses, but he holds it with no problem. And then his rocket launcher, which is kind of the same sort of deal. I wish there was more paint, and I wish that this was chromed. I just think it would have presented a bit better. He can obviously use it on his shoulder and such, and we'll take a look at that. But it is just relatively bland, you know, which it seems a bit strange. You can use this back rocket launcher by clipping onto the back panel here, also with no problem. And then two additional faces. One kind of you know, why can't I go to the party kind of face. Which is done, you know, well enough. Gray plastic, and then the chrome visor. The chrome visor looks great. No paint on the face. And then the kind of smirk with an attitude face, which is fine. I like the fact that they're trying to, you know, sort of kind of bring in some character into it, you know, as opposed to just a bland face. But I think it might. I mean, this is totally subjective, but I feel like this is maybe too much, you know, like maybe something a bit more subtle would have worked, you know, better, like a, you know, like a little subtle smirk. But instead, I mean, this is a full-on, fully committed smirk here, and it may be a bit much for most people to have in display mode, but they do include it as an option. And to swap out the heads, you just lift the helmet up, pop this piece off here, pop another one on, and then put the helmet back down. And there's that. I'll tell you, like, you know, this end of the year, Chinese New Year rush always comes with a lot of stuff and always keeps me relatively busy. And like, as soon as I think I'm done with stuff, I end up feeling like I get 10 more things into review. And when all this stuff comes in at the same time, it really does start to feel like a job. All done for the day. Maybe I'll just have some party muffins and maybe a glass of wine. What the is this? What's up, everybody? It's your favorite overworked, underpaid, favorite nerd, and today we are looking at... And then another, remember that thing from that episode accessory from the one of the first couple episodes where you used this grappling hook across the river. And it is nice. There's white plastic, and then the white plastic here, black plastic for the to spool, and then black string, which gets you a fair amount of distance, to be honest. And he can also utilize that in robot mode. He can hold it here. It is a bit of a pain to get in the hand, but he can hold it there once you get it all fit and sorted. Now, other than that, I don't see any real way to kind of include a lot of these accessories in car mode. Not a big deal to me, but it may be a big deal to you, and therefore I'm pointing it out. And I may be wrong, who knows? Like, I looked underneath here, and it looks like you could kind of try to fit this, you know, but it doesn't really work. Also the same at the front of it, but you can't, obviously, you know, you can't get it deep enough, so to speak, to make it work. Rubber tires with no tread, like a race car, I kind of dig that. The gold paint there inside the wheel looks beautiful. And then we got the detailings underneath, which we're not going to really talk about now, but we will talk about this red bumper that's painted, this line work on the hood and roof that are painted and look great. The wheels here that look good. I mean, like the wheel well that's painted. It's a little off. Like, you can tell, like, it's one section painted here and one section painted there, and in the middle they don't quite line up. Not a huge deal. Not something that most people are going to notice, but and I would imagine it's just lack of experience with this sort of thing, but it is there. This one's lined up a lot better, but you can still see where the separation is. Once again, not something that you would notice, easily forgivable, but worth noting. The 4 looks good, black paint there looks good, the orange paint in the back, all that stuff looks good. I know that this has been a subject of debate for a lot of people. You know, like, this looks a little unfinished back here, and I agree, but I also, it doesn't bother me. Like, you know, if a sacrifice was going to be made, the bottom of the back of the car is where I would prefer it be made. Obviously, I would prefer it just all be right, you know what I mean, so to speak. But if it's there, I'm okay with it. There is like a translucent piece of plastic here over the headlights, and then this is painted silver, I believe. And then all those little detailings in there are painted as well. And all that stuff looks great. The paint does display extremely well in car mode. Now, there's no finish to the white as far as I can tell, and that is a bit of a bummer because that would have just sent it over the top. But all in all, I think they did a pretty good job. Next to Tiger Tracks, there he is, fits in fine, and goes in the back of the MP trailer with no problem. All right, so they advise that you kind of break the centerpiece, which untabs these tabs. It feels like, I mean, it's easy to go in and go out, so to speak, but it feels like, I don't know, it doesn't feel... I mean, it's how they advise doing it, but it doesn't give you a good feeling while you do it. I don't feel like it'll break or anything. I don't see any stress marks, but it's just, it is a more of a bizarre type of feeling. Open up these side panels here, which should release this, and then you kind of have to untab from here to here, which is what I find to be one of the most challenging parts of this upper body. And once you get this up, you can fold this piece down and then fold this piece in. You might want to bring the head out while you do. And then you can open up these windows and doors. Old Skullface, let's keep it together. And then you can slide these pieces together and untab this, which will allow you to move these. I thought you could get there, just a tighter hinge right there at the top. And then move these back. You can get the arms out now. And you just got to work them out of that little cavity where they are. Close this, slide them down on this slider here, and there. Then you can fold, let's get this out of the way. You can fold these tires in to the center and they tab in, and I like that a lot. It's quite clever. And then we can make sure that this is closed and bring down these tabs, which tab into the front, and these tabs here on the arm, which tab into there. There we go. Legs are a little bit more challenging, but not impossible. Split them around, split them open rather. Untab this section and rotate this whole piece down. Then you open up this piece here, which will allow you to turn that assembly there 180 basically to fold this up. Then you tab this piece in there, and let's see here. Bring this piece around. We gotta fold. See, this is on a there. See that? It's hard to explain, but you get like this piece. Let's see if I can't show you. They're all on that same pin, so you keep this piece planted here, and then you kind of bring this piece around to meet up with it, and then you bring this piece over to the side, and this should cover down, which is pretty interesting engineering, quite honestly, but it is very challenging for me to kind of illustrate what's happening, and a little frustrating to kind of keep lock of or keep tabs on everything, so to speak. And then we want to fold this around and this around, and then this piece there has to tab in up there, and it's on a double hinge to do so. And actually, you're supposed to have brought this piece down here too. Let's see if that's going to be easy or difficult after what we've already done. Let's just back out a little bit. There. And then we open up this here to bring the foot down. And then push everything back, close that up, and then clean all this up the best you can. And this is a bit fiddly, but you just have to clean it once you kind of got all the pieces that you need out. So that's one done. So let's do it again. We want to move this middle window here away from this piece and rotate that down. On the inside of the leg, open this up, and then we want to rock this whole assembly out and over, plugging this piece back into here, and that solidifies that. And then we have the part that's our least favorite, which is this wheel well. We have to bring this around, make sure that this covers down on that screw, and we can use even this piece here to kind of push that extra bit. Bring this piece down, we'll do that now. And then turn this to the side, this whole piece over, rock it up to tab in. At which point, and this is the only part I'm not crazy about, just open this up here and then rock the foot down. Close that up. I'll clean it up. We'll take a look at it. Before we start to take a look at this fella, I just wanted to show you what he looks like all armored up. And even all armored up, you have the options of having the windows out or in. So, pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about him. The head is actually on a ball peg, and then it's on a hinge back here. So utilizing the hinge in the ball peg, you can get a decent range all the way up to there, down to there, which isn't down to there, I guess. That's a bit more. And then the swivel. So that all works fine, albeit maybe not as solid as you would like, which is sort of the issue across the board here, which I will get to. In an otherwise really great figure, don't get me wrong. All right, so the head sculpt looks good. I like this. I think that looks good. I think that the visor looks great. The sculpt of the helmet and everything is fantastic. Beautiful job. For the waist, you have an ab crunch all the way down to there, which is probably the best ab crunch we've ever seen. You also have, see, that's part of it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Don't you worry. We also have the swivel, but you kind of have to use the ab crunch to get the swivel in most cases. Like these bars back here do kind of get in the way. But it's not the worst thing in the world to have to use a little bit of the ab crunch to do it. This is as you can see, these keep popping out on me, and so does this one over here, but we'll talk about it. We have these doors. They can hide back here for the more cartoon look, or you can bring them out for the toy look. Smart way of doing it. I tip my hat to them for that. I dig that. So that works. The blue paint, all this stuff from car mode carries over just fine. These two pegs here want to keep popping out on me. It doesn't take much for them to come out. So they should have probably been a bit longer, or at least poked through the bottom, so to speak, but I don't know. The shoulders here also keep coming out on me. And I do find that to be relatively frustrating. The shoulders themselves, articulation-wise, are great. It's basically a universal joint, so you get all the way up to there. Great range because of the way that they cut that, so that works beautifully. And then the swivel all the way around. Of course, when I use the swivel, it pokes out those, but you just resort it and you're fine. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, getting you a great range. This is another piece that, as I've been fiddling with them, tends to come open. An interlocking tab here wouldn't have hurt either. Wrist swivel, fingers all on a base pin knuckle. I think that works fine. Good. Same for the other side. The hips, you have hip skirts here and here, which have a ratcheted universal joint, which feels fantastic. Perfectly ratcheted hips. Out to there. Great, strong, like the clicks, the space between the clicks, I think it might be too much for some people, but I think it's perfect. And the strength of the ratchet is also perfect. And ratcheted forward and back. So that gets you the full Monty and the full Van Damme. That's beautiful. Come down here. We got to close this up. The paint on the pelvis looks great as well. Thigh swivel into the bottom of the universal. I think these pieces are die cast and they are painted with this silver paint. Looks great. The knees, double jointed, getting you 90 degrees. No problems there. This piece on mine has a hard time wanting to stay in. I'm not sure if you'll have the same issue or not. Maybe individual results will vary. Once again, this is that gray plastic, which I don't think they should have used. It's that spirally kind of plastic, like old Toyworld stuff used to use. And I just, I'm not, in my opinion, it's not the best choice here. I think that going with that silver paint would have probably looked better and more cohesive. So that's just me. Ankles, fair articulation here. Not much of a tilt. You can move this heel spur a little bit to get a tilt back. But you know what? To be honest with you, I'm not a big tilt back guy. I like a tilt up because then you can have them like, one leg back and kind of perched on that foot. And I think that's the better way to have an ankle tilt, and it is there. And then an ankle rocker as well. Old school rocker type unit also, and that works really well. So that's all good. I dig that. And then the heel spur, of course, is a bit, it's on a hinge here, right? So yeah, you can move it around a little bit if you need to. And, misspoke. Forgive me. And the back of the figure cleans up pretty well. We do get a little clunky down in this area. I think that this is going to be the challenge with Jazz in general, just based on the character design. But I think all in all, they did a pretty good job. And this really reminds me of the Takara Masterpiece cars. I think it'll fit in quite nicely. Let's take a look at them with some. So there is Prime, Prow, Ironhide, and Jazz, and like that's something I've always wanted. Like a proper G1 looking. And I mean, how I feel about that Ironhide, but let's not dwell on that. But like I've always envisioned like these three being like the top lieutenants, underneath Prime, and it's a good feeling seeing them together. I think it fits in quite nicely. And there he is with the Generation Toy Jazz, and both good figures, to be quite honest. Like it's funny because I know people are going to be like, well, which one do you prefer? And to me, they're not really comparable. Like they serve two totally different functions. If you're asking like which is better, like they both do certain things better than the other one in a lot of ways. But if you're like, well, which one looks more like Jazz? Well, depends on which Jazz you're talking about. IDW Jazz, he's going to look better and he's going to fail. G1 Jazz, he's going to look better, and he's going to fail. So to me, there's almost like two totally different characters. I mean, even the characterization of most IDW characters are different than the G1. But it is cool to see them together and really being able to look at the little, you know, the differences, like the sculpt work differences and the paint differences and the finish differences and the kind of aesthetic differences. And I think they both do a great job of capturing what they're supposed to capture. Final thoughts wise, let's get the negatives out of the way, because they are few. Some of my pieces have a hard time tabbing in and staying tabbed in. This piece here on this one particular leg has a hard time. This tab over here, the identical one on the other leg, not a problem. The two tabs underneath the chest have a hard time staying in as well, as do the ones at the shoulders. I think part of that is because this joint is a little tighter, so as you go to manipulate the shoulder, it ends up bringing that tab out of the base of the figure. And those are really my only complaints objectively. Subjectively, I kind of feel like a few weird decisions were made. I think that this gray plastic here is a really strange choice. I don't get it. I don't think it fits the look of the figure. It looks out of place. I feel like I lost pieces and they replaced it with different pieces. That's kind of how I feel with those. And I feel like maybe these forearms should have tabbed together, like once you closed them up, like should have locked in. And I think that would have felt a little bit more secure. And of course, you know, there is paint here and the paint is done really well, but I could have used more. I could have used more white paint. I could have used more black paint. All in all, though, I think this is a really great effort. I definitely recommend it. I think, let me talk about what they did right, because I think they did a lot of things right. The overall feel of the figure and the smoothness of the transformation, although I do have some issues with the way the transformation finishes up in a few ways, but the overall feel and flow of it does remind me of the old school Masterpiece cars. This felt a lot like those old school Masterpiece cars that I think we all kind of love. And it really does flow and feel and fit in that world. The materials are great. They feel up to par with typical Maketoys Masterpiece kind of feels. The paint, where it is applied, it's fantastic. The finish on the legs is great. All the paint inside the wheels of the tires are great. I love the chrome on the eyes. I think there's a lot of good decisions made here. I think the sculpt of the character is so dead on the money. I think they really got that right. It is interesting, though, because, you know, Maketoys, even in their Masterpiece or remastered kind of line, have kind of always had their own sort of take on things. You know, like it's definitely been kind of reminiscent of the G1, or in some cases the Japanese continuation of G1 for most of their characters so far, but it's definitely been their own spin on it. This seems a lot more slavish to the kind of G1 design, kind of falling in line with what Takara and Fanstoys have been doing as of late. And I'm not mad at it, but I do like Maketoys sensibility for the most part, and I do like their little twists on things. Like I like how it's like their Point Blank, or you know, their I don't know what his Maketoys name is, but you know, the new figure that's coming after this, that's a Masterpiece scaled Autobot. Like I love it. I think it looks great, and it's definitely reminiscent of the G1, but it has kind of their sensibilities added in, and they don't really do that here, and it's fine. You know, a lot of companies are going that way. X-Transbots, Fanstoys, Takara. But I do like their take on stuff, so I would have been interested to see how that worked out. Also, while I'm thinking about it, I think that the weapon should have been chromed as well instead of that gray plastic. That gray plastic really irritates me. It's definitely a subjective thing, but I feel a way about it. I'm going to let that be known. It just doesn't feel right. But the rest of it is really good. I love the accessories. I love the things that you can do with the side doors on the car to give them the wing look, or the kind of more sleekish look. I think that once again, the aesthetic is dead on, and I love the engineering. The feet get a little wonky, but for the most part, I love the engineering, and I think it's a great figure, and I think it's a decent price figure for what it is. So I strongly recommend it. Bravo to Maketoys, another figure well done. I just wish that a couple things, as T2RX6 says, like the fit and finish. I wish that there was a little bit more solidity in the fit and finish. And who knows, maybe I'll mess with it some more and get a more streamlined look. But even still, with those criticisms, they're easy fixes. Like this popping out, you just put it back together and repose it, and you're good. This one I've actually had more of a problem just getting it to stay in. This is like a I don't know. It doesn't feel. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel like it wants to go. There's like some resistance there. But, you know, that could be an individual results will vary kind of thing. And I'm definitely not opposed to that being the case. So, yeah, If you want a jazz that's G1, that's masterpiece scale, this is the one to get. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.